The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 8 video. Today I want to go over some of the biggest unanswered questions and theories from Game of Thrones. This story began 7 seasons ago, but there is still so much that we don't know. With only 6 episodes left, you have to wonder, is there enough time to explain everything? Also, do we even want to know the answers to everything, because sometimes speculating is more fun than actually knowing the truth. Either way, it should be very interesting to see how they decide to conclude this amazing story. Now, I did not put any of these questions in any specific order, but since there are so many, I would like to get started right away. So without further ado, let's begin. Number 1. Who is Jaqen H'ghar? He is easily one of the most fascinating and mysterious characters from Game of Thrones. I know this is a question that fans have been asking for decades, ever since the first books were starting to get released. We first meet this character back in the 2nd season, when Arya Stark and Gendry were traveling to the Wall together with the other recruits for the Night's Watch. At that time, Jaqen H'ghar was a prisoner along with 2 other men. Now what's interesting is, Jaqen H'ghar was previously locked up in the Black Cells, which are located right under King's Landing, where Ned Stark was also held captive. We don't really know why Jaqen H'ghar was in King's Landing, but the timing of his capture does create a lot of speculation. Many people believe that Ned Stark was also a faceless man, but not only that, they also believe that he could have traded faces with Jaqen H'ghar so he could escape from King's Landing. Could this be the reason why Jaqen H'ghar immediately took interest in Arya Stark? The fact that he was so interested in Arya Stark does make many fans suspicious. Other people believe that Jaqen H'ghar could actually be Syrio Forel. As you all know, we never did see Syrio Forel die, and he did disappear right around the same time Jaqen H'ghar would have been locked up in the Black Cells in King's Landing. Now the speculation doesn't end here, because Jaqen H'ghar is also believed to be Rhaegar Targaryen. The truth is, we may never find out who this faceless man is, if he is anyone at all. But I know this is one question many fans would love to have answered before the show does end. Number 2. Who is the Night King? This is another one of the most mysterious characters from Game of Thrones. The Night King is the supreme leader and the first of the White Walkers. Not only is he the biggest threat Westeros has ever faced, but his powers also seem to be growing with each passing season. This character was first introduced in Season 4, when he turned one of Craster's sons into a White Walker. Ever since then, the Night King's army has been growing by the thousands. This was best put on display at Hardhome, when we saw the Night King resurrect thousands of wildlings right before our very own eyes. That show of force left many fans, and even the characters within the show, absolutely speechless. Thanks to the three-eyed Raven and Bran Stark, we finally saw how the Night King was created, but no one knows who this man actually was. After that episode originally aired, many different theories about the Night King's true identity started to pop up all over the internet. Because of this, many fans started to believe that Bran Stark was actually the Night King. Now, whether that is the case or not is still anyone's guess. However, if the Night King is inspired by the Night's King from the books, we may already know which family he does come from. As we all know, Game of Thrones is based on the A Song of Ice and Fire novels. Almost every single detail from the show was lifted from the books, so perhaps the identity of the Night King was as well. According to old Nan, not only does she think the Night's King was a Stark, but she also believes his name was Brandon Stark. Who the Night King truly is one of the great mysteries of the show, and it's one of the answers I am anticipating the most. Number 3. Where is Howland Reed? As we all know, Howland Reed is the father of Mira and Jojen Reed, but he is also one of House Stark's most loyal bannermen. The interesting thing about this character is we have actually never seen him in the current story. The only time we have seen Howland Reed was during a flashback scene at the Tower of Joy, but that was no ordinary scene. That scene provided an answer that fans were wanting to know for decades, and that of course was the identity of Jon Snow's mother. Ned Stark died before he could ever reveal that secret to Jon Snow, but Howland Reed on the other hand is still alive, and he might be one of the only survivors from the Tower of Joy who can confirm Bran Stark's flashback. But the question is, where is Howland Reed? And will he show up before the show ends? We know he was still alive when Ned Stark was executed because Jojen said, when his father heard the news about Ned Stark's death, It was the first time he had ever seen him cry. George R. R. Martin once said that the only reason why Howland Reed hasn't shown up in the current story yet is because he knows too much information, but he also said that Howland Reed would show up near the end of the story. Now we can only hope that the same thing will happen in the show. As we all know, Meera Reed left Winterfell last season, and she said she was going to go home to be with her family. But once Howland Reed finds out what Bran Stark has seen in his flashbacks, and Meera tells him that the White Walkers have returned, that might cause Howland Reed to get off his ass and show up in Winterfell. Number 4. Will Arya Stark finish off her hit list? Ever since the second season, Arya Stark has been keeping a list of characters who she intended on eventually killing. There was roughly a dozen different names on that list, but over time, many of those characters have died, either by Arya Stark herself or someone else. The last time we heard Arya Stark recite the names on the list, we only heard her say 3 names. Those names were Walder Frey, Cersei Lannister, and Gregor Clegane. She also had Melisandre and the Brotherhood on the list, for what they did to Gendry, but for whatever reason Arya no longer says their names. So if we're just going to base that on Arya's updated list, the only 2 characters that are still alive are Cersei Lannister and Gregor Clegane. After Arya Stark killed Walder Frey and the rest of his men, she did start to make her way to King's Landing to kill Queen Cersei, but once she found out Jon and Sansa had taken back Winterfell, she decided to go home instead. As of right now, we have yet to see her reunite with Jon Snow, but we should be able to see that happen at the beginning of the final season. Once that does happen, you have to wonder what Arya Stark will do next. We know she still has a bag of faces hiding under her bed, and now she even has a new Valyrian steel weapon thanks to her brother Bran Stark. Even though many fans believe Jaime Lannister will kill Cersei, and the Hound will kill his brother, could Arya Stark actually be the one to get there and kill them first? I guess we shall see. Number 5. Why did Melisandre go to Volantis? In my opinion, Melisandre is another one of those characters who's equally fascinating and mysterious. The last time we saw her was when she had a conversation with Varys right before she left Dragonstone. When they spoke, Melisandre said she would be heading to Volantis next, but then she said something very ominous. It seems as if Melisandre has already seen the future and the flames. Not only has she seen her own death, but she also says she has seen Varys' death as well. She also knows that the Night King is coming, and she has been preparing for that day ever since she was introduced. The last time Melisandre spoke to Jon Snow, she told him she could help him defeat the Night King, but she never did say how. Now that she has brought Jon and Daenerys together, there seems to be only one thing she has left to do, and that answer may lie in Volantis, where Melisandre is heading next. Number 6. What information is inside of Sam's books? When Sam and Gilly were traveling to Old Town for Sam to become a maester, Sam said that he needed to learn more about the White Walkers, that way he could help Jon Snow defeat them. The only problem was, when Sam got to the Citadel, no one wanted to believe him. He did tell the other maesters about the White Walkers returning, but that basically fell on deaf ears. That left Samwell Tarly with no choice but to leave the Citadel, but before he left, he did take several books with him. Some of the books were even taken from the restricted area of the library. Since he did this in the middle of the night, we weren't able to see what kind of books he was taking, but my guess is it has something to do with the White Walkers and or the Night King. During the Season 7 finale, we did see Sam and Gilly arrive in Winterfell, and shortly after that, Sam was able to help Bran learn more about Jon Snow's parentage. But what will they do next? They had to have shown Sam taking all of those books for a reason, but what information do they hold? Will they be able to find out who the Night King is? Will they be able to find out what the Night King wants? Or maybe they will find out how to defeat the Night King for good. Now that Jon is on his way to Winterfell, it's only a matter of time before he and Sam meet up again. The Night King should be arriving shortly after that, and by that time, we need to find out what is exactly inside of those books. Number 7. How will everyone react to the news about Jon Snow? As we all know, Jon Snow is the legitimate son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, which does mean that Jon has the rightful claim to the Iron Throne. The bad news is this could mean trouble for Jon Snow. Not only are the Targaryens hated in the north, but Daenerys also believes that she has the rightful claim to the throne. Now we all know that Daenerys obviously cares about Jon, but this is something that she has wanted for so long, and she has already sacrificed so much in order to claim her spot as the rightful queen. Could she begin to see Jon as someone else she needs to get out of her way for her to claim what she thinks is rightfully hers? Then on the other hand, you have Jon's bannermen and his very own family. When Jon was getting ready to leave Winterfell to greet with Daenerys for the first time, Sansa and the Northern Lords made it very clear how they felt about the Targaryens. So when and if that information gets revealed next season, Jon could potentially face backlash from almost everyone that is close to him. This should make for some very interesting scenes in Winterfell. Number 8. Who is the prince or princess that was promised? According to Melisandre, the prince was prophesied thousands of years ago. Melisandre states that when the Red Star bleeds and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amid smoke and salt. Now it's unclear whether or not Azor Ahai and the prince who was promised are the same figure, but it does appear to be that way. Over the course of the story, there have been several candidates who were believed to fulfill the prophecy. During Melisandre's introduction on the beach of Dragonstone, she does claim that Stannis Baratheon is the prince that was promised, but once he dies, Melisandre begins to set her sights on Jon Snow. However, thanks to Melisandre, we later find out that this prophecy could be fulfilled by a woman. That led many fans to believing it could be Daenerys Targaryen. This is a question that fans have been wanting answered for decades. Now whether it actually comes to fruition or not is still anyone's guess, but maybe that has something to do with Melisandre heading to Volantis, and if so, we will find out next season. Number 9. What does the Night King want? Although the Night King wasn't introduced until much later, this is another thing that fans have been wanting to know ever since the pilot episode of Game of Thrones. The White Walkers were introduced in the opening scene of the opening episode, yet we still aren't exactly sure what they want. There are a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to the Night King and the White Walkers, like who is the Night King, why did he return now, and ultimately what does he want? Now that the battle for the Dawn is on the horizon, it's more important now than ever that we try to understand everything we can about the White Walkers and how to defeat them. Some would say that this answer is rather simple. The Night King was created by the Children of the Forest as a weapon to kill mankind. But is that still the only thing that he seeks? I don't think so. And there are other theories that say the Night King is coming to claim a Night's Queen, or he's coming after Gilly's son. It would make things so much easier if someone was able to communicate with the Night King to find out exactly what he wants, but unfortunately, we have never heard him speak. At the end of the day, in order for us to understand the Night King's motives, Bran Stark may have to go inside of the weirwood net one more time to find those answers. Number 10. Who will sit on the Iron Throne? Ever since the start of the series, the Iron Throne has stood in as the ultimate symbol of power. Many different characters have bled, and many different characters have died over who they think should claim that seat and gain the Seven Kingdoms. As of right now, Cersei Lannister currently occupies the Iron Throne. However, she might not be the one sitting there when the show comes to an end. After all, Daenerys Targaryen has traveled a great distance to come and claim what she believes to be rightfully hers. But she isn't the only Targaryen who has a claim. According to Bran Stark, since Jon Snow is the legitimate son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, he says he has the rightful claim to the throne. But will Jon Snow even want it? One thing is for sure, neither Jon nor Daenerys want Cersei Lannister to remain as the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. But they aren't the only ones who may have their eyes on the ultimate prize. As we all know, the Night King is currently on his way south with an army of his own, and until we find out what he actually wants, we can't count him out as someone who may want to claim the throne for himself. Now some would say that Daenerys may have the best chance to take the throne, because not only does she want it the most, but she also has two very large dragons that will help her take it. However, you cannot ignore the vision Daenerys had back in the second season. When Daenerys Targaryen walked into the Great Hall, we could see there was damage done to the ceiling, and there was snow falling all over the room and the Iron Throne. Some fans have thought that this may be ash, but the director of the episode did confirm that that was indeed snow falling on the throne. Daenerys was never able to claim the throne in that vision. She does reach out to touch it, but when she hears her dragon, she turns around and she leaves before she ever does. That could be a good indication that Daenerys will never sit on the Iron Throne, and if that's the case, who will? The snow falling on the Iron Throne is obvious symbolism for Jon Snow having the rightful claim, but does that mean he will take the throne for himself? Not necessarily, but I would like to think that the chances of Cersei keeping the Iron Throne for herself are very slim. Some of the unanswered questions I brought up in this video may never get answered before the show does end, but when it comes to the Iron Throne, we will absolutely find out if Cersei is able to remain as the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms or not. Let me know which of these questions you think will be answered by the end of the 8th season. I'm interested in seeing what some of you have to say. Anyways, I want to thank everyone for watching the video, I appreciate that as always, And I also want to thank all of you who support the channel on Patreon. I hope everyone has a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.